We are live. Hey, how is it going? Lee Hayward here with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat for February the 4th. How are you doing today? Let me know as you're tuning into the live stream. And let me know if this is coming through loud and clear. I want to make sure that this is coming through on both ends, that everything's working well. Fingers crossed, everything's going good. I know last week when I did the video chat, it started off fine, right? It went fine from the beginning, and then like 5 minutes in, the whole thing froze, locked up on me. So fingers crossed, we don't have any of those issues here today. But as you're tuning in right now, let me know if this is coming through loud and clear, if you can hear me, if you can see me, all that good stuff. I would greatly appreciate it. All right, we have Dan joining in, a regular to the chat. Nice to see you back, Dan. Loud and clear. We have HRH Lub joining in. Hello. All right, so the way these video chats work is I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour-ish. You know, I usually do it for about an hour. And just shooting the breeze, having a chat about fitness, nutrition, building muscle, losing fat, any specific questions or topics of discussion that you would like to discuss related to fitness and nutrition, workouts, any of those topics, feel free to type those into the chat window, and I'll do the best I can to help you out over the course of the video chat. If I can, I'll help you. If I can't, then I'll try and point you in the right direction to someone who can. I'll try and give you some resources, because even though I've been doing this for 30 years, right, one of the pioneers to the whole online bodybuilding and fitness scene, I don't claim to know it all. Right? I always like to approach things with a beginner's mind. I always like to be open to learning, open to new things. And just like say, I'm happy to help, happy to share what I can, but I don't claim to be a know-it-all, right? So that's one thing that I make perfectly clear here. So take this information with a grain of salt, put it that way, right? Who do we got joining in? So as you're joining in, let me know. Type into the chat window there and then let me know where you're coming in, where you're tuning in from, what time it is. So I'm in Newfoundland, Canada right now, and it's 6:38 p.m. as I'm doing this video chat. It's Newfoundland time. So we have Dan joining in. We've got Medi joining in. Welcome. Glad to have you. So where are you guys tuning in from? Let me know in the chat window there. I know we usually have an international audience coming through, so it's always nice to see where people are tuning in from. All right. And one thing that I want to discuss now before we get into really getting into your questions and stuff, because I know people are typing in their questions there now as we go, is one, I was having a coaching call today with one of my coaching students, with several of them actually, and there's a couple themes that I want to discuss here. One is the topic of fat loss, and once you've achieved your fat loss goals, how do you then transition into a lean mass building phase? This is something that some of my more advanced coaching students, guys who've gone through the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program, they're in this phase now where they've lost their excess body fat. They're now at an ideal level of leanness that they're comfortable with, and they want to focus on maintaining and sustaining that lean physique while continuing to add muscle and strength and just improving their athletic performance. But they don't want to go through the whole bulk and cut, which is what a lot of people end up doing. Bulking and gaining a lot of excess weight in the process, and then cutting, and you sacrifice a lot of strength and muscle and athletic performance. So it's the extremes, and we want to avoid the extremes at all costs, because the extremes are not that's no man's land. We want to be in this nice healthy balance where you're making progress, but you're not forcing it, and that's a delicate thing. And it took me a long time to learn this, because me coming from the bodybuilding background, I was guilty of the bulking and cutting phases, of suffering it out, stuffing yourself to try and bulk up, and then starving yourself to try and get ripped, and going through that all or nothing extreme, one end or the other. And I find, like, yes, it can work in the short term, but it's not sustainable and it's not enjoyable, nor is it healthy in the long term. So one thing that I've been really emphasizing with my coaching students, the ones who are already at their ideal body weight and now want to focus on lean gains, is keep the same core principles in place. The workouts, the cardio, the lifestyle habits, the nutrition, the same core principles should stay in place. But now all we're going to do is, instead of focusing on being in a calorie deficit to maximize fat burning, we're going to be in a calorie maintenance, so that you're fueling your body, allowing enough energy to adequately recover from the workouts and not be in a deficit, and then utilize that for lean gains. And it's such a small amount, it's such a small difference that it's not even a big transition. And a lot of times people don't even you're not even consciously aware of the difference because it's so small. I mean, we're talking like maybe a few hundred calories at most. And it's not even changing the food choices or anything like that. It's just increasing the portion sizes ever so slightly, especially around that workout window, because you want to utilize the energy when you need it, right around that time of the workout to fuel it. And I was just having a call with Craig, one of my coaching students, and I featured Craig Goer on my website. I mean, he's made an amazing transformation over the past year. Like, lost over 45 pounds of body fat, got visible abdominal definition, and he's in the best shape of his life now, going through the whole Muscle After 40 blueprint. So, I mean, he's really taken it to that next level. And now he wants to focus on keeping that lean physique, keeping his abdominal definition and that level of fitness that he's happy with, and just focusing on improving it, right? Like gaining some lean mass in the process. And one thing that we were discussing when I was chatting with Craig during our coaching call today is he was often doing fasted workouts in the morning. So like wake up first thing in the morning, and just from a convenience factor would have a cup of coffee, and then go about, getting ready, and then basically hit the gym for a workout. And that works from a fat loss point of view. And you can actually, that's like an advanced strategy to maximize fat burning, because when you work out in a fasted state, your body's more readily able to tap into burning fatty acids for energy, because you haven't spiked your insulin, you haven't spiked your glycogen and all that stuff. So, I mean, you can actually tap into burning fatty acids. Now, for shorter duration workouts, like workouts that are an hour or less, it's not a big deal. Like, you can usually get through them pretty good. But if you're doing longer duration workouts, especially if you're doing long duration cardio or something like that, then you can run into some low blood sugar issues if you try and train in a fasted state beyond, an hour. But in Craig's case, he was doing short workouts, 45 minutes to an hour in a fasted state, and it worked really well for him. It helped him to burn that body fat and to really start his day off on the right track. But now, the only difference we're making to his whole program is we're keeping all his main meals and everything else the same, but we're adding in a pre-workout meal. So instead of training in a fasted state, now we're going to get in some simple, easy digesting protein and carbohydrates beforehand in order to help just give him that extra energy. So now that he's training in a fed state versus a fasted state. That's it. So we're going to top up his glycogen stores a little bit beforehand, and that's going to bump up his calorie intake by a few hundred calories. And that's it. That's the only change we're making from his cutting to his lean gain. Like, that's it. Is a very simple, small transition. And this is one that a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their head around, because they think they have to go from cutting to bulking. And it has to be this extreme, drastic change. Like, I'm going to go from boiled chicken and broccoli to I'm going on the seafood diet, and I'm slamming back an extra 1,000+ calories a day. And I got to go to McDonald's and Burger King and everywhere else to just slam back the calories, right? And you got to start eating, tons of extra carbohydrates and, crack open the jar of peanut butter, to get the calories in and all this kind of stuff. Like, no, it doesn't have to be the extreme bulk or cut, right? Starve or stuff. Just little tiny manipulations. And this is enough to actually just tip the scale in favor of now he's no longer in a calorie deficit. He's at maintenance, and he's actually providing the energy to fuel his workouts. And that's subtle changes, but it makes a big difference, because once you have everything in place, it's like a finely tuned machine. Subtle changes can make a difference. But the problem for a lot of people is they don't stick to anything long enough for those subtle changes to make a noticeable difference. Because if you're always like, you start a diet for a week or two, and then you get, frustrated and quit and go back to your old habits, and then you get back on track and motivated again, and you diet for another week or two, and then screw up and say, frig it, and go back to your old habits, and you're always on and off, nothing has time to really solidify or become routine, and your body doesn't have time to adapt in response to what you're doing, because there is no consistency. But once you have the consistency in place, consistency with the workouts, consistency with eating habits, consistency with lifestyle, and getting adequate sleep, and avoiding alcohol, and all these things, if you have consistency in all the core areas, this is where real sustainable change can happen. but you need to have that foundation in place first. And it doesn't have to be major changes. Like small, subtle changes that you can do and sustain over the long term can make a big difference. And this is something that myself and Craig, now we're going to just make this small change, like literally add in a pre-workout meal and just monitor his results and adjust it accordingly. And I had another one of my coaching students, Khalid, same thing. He went through a fat loss program, lost a lot of body fat, went from smooth to visible six-pack abs, made an amazing fat loss transformation. And now he wants to transition from lean gain, from having that lean physique to just making some lean gains without gaining excess body fat in the process. Because he's went through his version of yo-yo dieting up and down in the past through the hardcore bulking and cutting approach. And it doesn't work. It really doesn't. It's usually a backfired approach for most people. I've rarely seen extreme bulking and cutting programs work out successfully in the long term. It's usually people gaining way too much fat when they're bulking. And then when they have to switch gears and focus on cutting, they end up sacrificing a lot of lean mass. You're better off staying very close to that calorie maintenance and just manipulating the variables ever so slightly, whether that is for lean gains or whether that is for fat loss, and let the changes happen slowly without trying to force the process. So if you have any questions related to that, feel free to chime in there in the video chat window. And in the meantime, I'm going to jump into some of the questions and topics that you guys are posting there. So we got a lot of interaction coming through there, which is great. Let's see. We've got Robert joining in from Missouri. Welcome, Robert. Let's see what else. We have Neil joining in from the Philippines. Jose is joining in from New York. Motaz is joining in as well. Ange joining in. Good stuff. JKS. Good stuff. Nice to have you tuning in. Cheers. Having tea with Lee here today. All right. First question from HRH. I've started working out day on, day off. Not sure what to eat. Should I eat after a workout? I feel tired. All right. There's a lot of variables in there. All right. There's a lot of variables. First off, congratulations. You started working out. That in and of itself is a victory. What I want you to focus on now, as far as the eating, is trying to do better than you were before. That's it. Better than you were before. Like, don't get hung up on, what's the best meal plan? What's the best calories? What's the best this and that? Like, what are the best supplements to take? And, should I be this and that and the other? Like, don't overcomplicate it. People are wonderful at overcomplicating things. And when you overcomplicate it, you get into the whole paralysis by analysis or analysis by paralysis, however you say it. And you don't do anything. Like, don't overcomplicate the process. You've done the first step. You started working out. And if I were to give anyone advice, like someone brand new, never dieted, never exercised, never did anything, what would I recommend starting with? Start with the workout. Start with that first. Because if you're not exercising, well, you want to start exercising. Like, you're already eating. Granted, it's probably not eating optimally, but you're going to eat regardless, right? Whether it's healthy food or junk food, usually it's a combination of both. But you're already putting food into your mouth on a daily basis. So, like, don't worry about the eating part for now. Focus on the exercise. You're not exercising, so get that done first. And what often happens is just the fact that you start exercising, that will fuel your motivation to want to eat better. Because now that you're actually taking action, you're putting in the effort to go to the gym, to exercise, and you're putting in that effort and investment, now you want to follow it up with good eating habits. Whereas if you don't have the exercise there, then it's like, well, what's the point of eating well if I'm not exercising, right? Like, exercise, even though you can't out-train a bad diet, it gives you the motivation. It's like the initial step that I would recommend for most people. So if you haven't started and you're looking like, what do I focus on, diet or exercise? Start with the workout first, right? Get the exercise portion in place, and that will help to motivate you to follow it up with good eating habits afterwards. So again, congrats on doing that. You're on the right track for there. What I want you to focus on now is take a reverse psychology approach to your nutrition. Instead of thinking of all the bad things that you got to cut out and stuff like that, like a lot of times when people are focusing on going on a diet, they think, well, I got to cut out this and I got to cut out that. I got to cut out carbs. I got to cut out sweets. I got to cut out junk food. I got to cut out this and I got to cut out that and not allowed to have this. Instead of thinking about what you're not allowed to have, think of what you should add to make it better. So maybe you start by adding in some more protein. Maybe you start by adding in some more vegetables. Maybe start by adding in some more fruit and some healthy fats, drinking more water, like filling in the gaps. Try and make the eating plan better by adding in more good stuff. And the more good stuff you add in, by default, you squeeze out the bad stuff. It's like a reverse psychology approach to nutrition. Instead of thinking of what you need to avoid, think of what you need to fill up on. And if you're filling up on the good stuff, there's naturally less room for the bad stuff. And this is the approach that I take. And this is the approach that we use within the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program. It's not looking at food as good or bad or anything like that. It's looking at how can we make more good choices and how can we fill up on that good stuff first. And then by default, it minimizes the bad stuff. And then by having more good choices, you just tip the scale in favor of progress. So that's what I would start on first. If you want some help with this, I actually have a free PDF guide. I've got a couple of PDF guides. Head on over to my website at leehayward.com. And in the side menu bar, there's a whole bunch of PDF files. Sign up and download them all if you want. I mean, there's value in each and every one of them. But one that would really help you with the mindset behind this is the Ripped After 40 PDF, and it's available over at leehayward.com. There should also be another one there, a Bodybuilding Nutrition Made Simple guide. I'm just going to double check to make sure that it's there right now. I haven't logged onto my own website in the past couple days, so I just want to do a refresher. So the first one that you'll see in the side menu bar is the Ripped After 40. That would help with the overall bigger picture and mindset behind all this. And then if you scroll down, there's another one there. It says Free Bodybuilding Diet Plan. It's actually Bodybuilding Nutrition Made Simple. That one really goes into the specifics of the protein, the carbohydrates, the fats, and the ideal ratios that you want to have. So if you're really looking for, what to eat specifically, that would be a great one to download as well. There's also a workout program there, the muscle building training program, 3 keys to building muscle. I mean, all those. We also have a training app that you can download for Apple as well as Android devices. You can download that as well. But there's a lot of good bonus material right on over at leehayward.com. You can download it for free, and that would really help to get you started on the right track, right? Those guides would be a great starting point for sure. And then if you need some additional help beyond that, feel free to reach out to me, whether you send me an email or friend me up on Facebook and message me through there. And, if you do have any specific questions or need some more advanced help beyond what's covered in those PDF, feel free to reach out to me and we can have a chat about it and discuss a realistic action plan for you. But that would be your next action step, is to download those PDFs to get you moving in the right direction. All right, back over to our chat. What else we got coming through here? Medi is joining in. I think I'm pronouncing it right. It says, I love your work. I'm from Morocco. And what's your opinion about training 3 times a week doing full body workouts? That's exactly what I do. I do 3 workouts a week using primarily full body workouts. I love that. That's what I've been doing for the past several years, actually. Since I've went through my own Get Fit Over 40 journey, this is how I've done it, is by 3 weight training workouts per week, utilizing full body workouts. And I find that that is an ideal split for a lot of people, especially people who are pressed for time and people as you're getting older. I find it's very forgiving on the body to do that, because when you do body part splits, one, you need to have a lot of time to dedicate to training. Like if you have endless time to work out and like your schedule is wide open and you want to work out 6 days a week and you've got time to spend and there's no issues when it comes to time or anything like that, hey, by all means, you can do a body part split and make that work. But if you're pressed for time and your schedule is probably a bit erratic, where maybe you may not make it to the gym today because, due to family responsibilities, work responsibilities, or whatever, you might not get today and you might have to get there tomorrow. If that's the case, then you're better off doing a full body workout or a more condensed training split. Instead of having an individual body part split, having a more flexible split. Because with the full body, if you miss a workout, big deal, you're still going to hit all your major muscle groups the next day. So it's not a big deal if you miss a session here or there, because you're not going to neglect anything over the long term. I mean, if you missed a workout, you're still getting 2 full body workouts, so you're still hitting all your major muscle groups twice a week. Whereas if you're doing a body part split and you end up missing a day or two, that could throw off your whole split. And then it might be like over a week or more before you get around to training that same muscle group again. So it really expands the gap between training frequency when you're doing a body part split, unless you're super consistent and you got lots of time to spend in the gym. Another thing that I don't like about the body part splits is you're doing a lot of repetitive movements for those muscle groups. So like say chest day rolls around, like Monday's chest day, International Chest Day, right? Monday. And you go in there and you do 20 sets for chest or whatever it is, maybe more. That's a lot of volume. Like you go in there, you not only are you stimulating the muscle, you're annihilating the muscle. Like you're putting a lot of stress, a lot of demands on the muscles, the joints, the tendons, the ligaments, and it's kind of like overkill. And then you're probably going to be painfully sore the day after. And then you go in there and you train back the next day and you annihilate it with 20 plus sets for back. And then your back is painfully sore. And then his legs, and your legs are painfully sore. Like I would much rather do a little bit more frequently than go in there and just do a crap ton of volume in a single go. So that's why I like the full body workouts, is because I go in there and I'll do 1 or 2 exercises per each muscle group. And it's just a little bit of stimulation, let the body rest, recover, and grow, and then go in there again, a little bit of stimulation, rest, recover, grow. And I don't get painfully sore in any one area, and I don't have any joint pain. Like that repetitive movement strain from, like after chest day, oh, my shoulders are killing me, right? My rotator cuff is really hurt, or the elbows are killing me, or after leg day, the knees are hurting and stuff like that. When I'm doing full body workouts and you're only doing like limited volume and small amounts frequently, I don't get that joint pain. So I actually find it works very well for me at this stage of the game. And ironically, here I am now, in my 40s, and I have less joint pain than when I was in my 20s and 30s because of the way that I'm structuring my training. It's a smarter way of training, and it's actually a lot more forgiving on the body, right? It's not as not creating as much damage, and I'm still getting good results with it. So I like that. And plus it's more flexible with my schedule. So if for some reason I can't make it to the gym and I have to skip a workout, big deal. I pick it up the next day and I continue on, still making progress. It doesn't really throw things off. So that's why I'm a huge fan of total body workouts. And that's what I do myself. And how I go about it is I like to alternate weight training one day and then cardio training the next. Weight training one day, cardio the next. And I refer to this as my yin and yang training system, because the weight training, that's high intensity exercise. It's placing a lot of stress and demands on the muscle. The cardio training, that's low intensity exercise. So it's still exercise, but it's not placing the same demands on the muscle, right? You're not placing the strain on the joints, the tendons, the ligaments and stuff. And it allows the body to keep active on a daily basis, right? Weight training with cardio, but I'm working within my recovery abilities. So on the days that I'm doing the cardio, that's like active recovery from the weight training. And then on the days I'm doing the weight training, that's, it's giving the endurance and the cardiovascular system a rest. So you're working different energy systems, but you're still reaping the benefits of getting good overall fitness. And that's the way I go about it. And that's usually how I recommend it for most of my coaching students as well. Now, of course, we will vary the programs depending on individual fitness levels, individual schedules and goals and all that. Because, we have some guys who are in the program are athletes who are training for specific sporting events. Some people are, in different situations and maybe have mobility issues that we have to work around or whatever. But more often than not, it's the full body workouts, alternating strength training and cardio. Some variation of that. That's usually what we do for the majority of the guys in the Muscle After 40 blueprint. And it works really well. Again, thanks for sharing. Great question. Neil is joining in from the Philippines. Welcome, Neil. Glad to have you. Jose is joining in. What is your opinion on MSG guns for muscle recovery? Massage guns. I'm assuming that's what you mean. What's your opinion on massage guns for muscle recovery, or is it better to get a regular massage? I got to be honest. I've never used those massage guns that look like a drill, like a jackhammer in your muscles. I don't know. I've never used them myself, so I can't really give any pros or cons about it. I've had a ton of people reach out to me. Like, anytime someone has a YouTube channel, like you always get people reaching out to you saying, hey, promote my shit. Right. I'll give you a free one if you promote it on your channel. Like, I don't want that. Like the way that I train with my workout, like I don't get painfully sore and everything else. So like, I just don't feel the need for it. My idea of recovery is I mean, one thing, staying consistent with your workouts is the single best thing that you can do, because I'm active pretty much every day. There's rarely a day that I don't do some form of exercise, but I'm only actually going to the gym 3 times a week. But, you know, I'm either active on my non-gym days by going for a walk or going for a bike ride or doing some sort of cardio, or maybe even doing some yoga is another thing that I like to do as well. Like I'll put on like a follow-along yoga workout and do that. So I'm active, but it's not all high-intensity exercise. So I'm alternating active recovery days in between my weight training days. And I find that that is huge. I think that's much better than any massage gun, is just keeping your body moving so you have the blood flow and the circulation, you know, on a regular basis. Because the more active you are, the more you're helping to just stimulate the recovery process. Another thing that's big as well is your nutrition. This is huge for recovery. Like you having adequate nutrition, adequate protein throughout the day, you know, to help provide the raw materials that your body needs. That's huge when it comes to recovery. I think that's more important than massage. Now, with that being said, is massage helpful? Yeah, it certainly can be helpful, especially if you have any mobility issues or any, you know, aches or pains or injuries that you're working around. Like massage can really help with that. You know, you see this a lot for people who have like muscle injuries, like if torn muscles or any like tendon or issues or something like that. Like getting some massage and help to reset that, or like even back issues, like working with a chiropractor and stuff like that can certainly help. But again, I've never actually used the massage gun myself, so I can't really offer any specific advice on that. For those of you who have, if you watching this video chat have used a massage gun and you like it or don't, let me know. Type it into the chat window. We can discuss it there and hopefully help Jose out in his if he decides he's going to get a massage gun or not. All right, moving on. What else we got? We have HRH says over in Ireland at 10 p.m. I wonder if it's normal to be tired when starting a new fitness plan. I'm mostly doing resistance bands. Is it normal to be tired? Well, obviously, when you start a new program, that's new training stimulation that your body's not accustomed to. So there is going to be that phase where, yeah, it's a big step for your body to adapt to that new level of exercise. So if you're used to doing zero exercise and now all of a sudden you're doing exercise, yeah, you've got to recover from that. So yeah, you will be tired afterwards. But the good thing is the more you do it, the easier it's going to get. And then eventually your fitness level and your work capacity is going to increase to the point where it's not making you feel tired, and you'll actually have more energy. And the way it is with fitness is you'll usually feel tired like after a hard workout, which is normal. I mean, you just depleted your energy reserves and you've exhausted yourself through an exercise session. But overall, your energy levels will be much higher, right? Throughout the day, you know, and just doing your day-to-day chores and going to the shops and going to work and like all this stuff, running around and doing whatever you got to do, you'll have more energy for that kind of stuff. But right after a hard workout, yeah, everybody's going to be tired and then need to have a break after that hard workout because you just depleted your energy reserves and you're spent after a hard workout. But overall, you'll find that your energy levels will increase and you'll feel better. But it takes that initial adaptation process, because anytime you start a new workout, this is the process you go through, right? You provide the stimulation, then your body has to adapt to it, and then it's going to grow in response to that. And that's the whole process. So right now, I mean, you're just providing the stimulation. Your body's still adapting to it. So you're probably going to feel more tired, more sore. And you're going through this initial hump. It's like, I'm doing this workout shit, but it's not feeling better. Like I'm not stronger. I'm not fitter. I'm not whatever. Like you're in this adaptation phase. And when your body's adapting to it, like it's actually, you're actually lower than you were before, because now you're exerting all this effort, but you're not seeing the results yet. But if you give it time and you stick to it and you trust the process, like, you know, believe that, hey, there's something to this fitness stuff. Like there's a reason why millions of people actually exercise on a regular basis, right? Trust the process and have faith that it's going to work for you. And then you can get past that initial hump, and then you'll start to reap the benefits, and, you know, you'll start to feel better. And then eventually, after, you know, your strength and energy is going to increase, and you'll get through those workouts and they won't be as exhausting. And then, of course, once you start to see your strength and energy and all that improve, then the physical changes will happen. But that's the process, right? You'll feel the effects before you see the effects. So your strength, your energy, all that kind of stuff is going to improve first. The physical changes in terms of like more muscle, more less body fat, all that kind of stuff, that happens later, right? That's longer term down the road. Don't expect to like work out for a week and have a new body next week. It ain't going to happen that fast. But you work out for a year, you'll have a new body next year. Like think of it bigger picture. And I know for a lot of people, like to think of, hey, you know, a year from now, like, oh my God, that seems like forever. A year is going to fly by before you know it. Especially, you know, if you're over 40, you've had a lot of years fly by before you know it, right? Like this whole COVID stuff we're going through, it's been going on for 2 years. Like who would have thought the world was different 2 years ago, right? Like time flies regardless of what you do, whether you take action or not, the time is going to go by. But if you take action within a year or two from now, like you can be looking back and say like, holy smokes, look at the transformation that just took place. Or you could get caught up and say, oh, I'm too busy. I'm too this. I don't want to do it. It's going to take too long. And then a year or two is going to go by and then you'll be in the same situation or worse. So like take the positive action now and then reap the results later on down the road. But I know that was a bit of a rant off the topic, but what you're going through is totally normal. Trust the process. You're on the right track. All right. Motez is saying, Lee, I hope you are doing well. I am doing well. Thank you much. He says, coffee or pre-workout, which is better for a better workout? It depends. If you're not a coffee drinker, you might like a pre-workout. The only drawback that I have with pre-workouts, especially these days, it's almost like a pissing match with pre-workouts. And what I mean by that is it's almost like a competition to see like who can slam the most caffeine and the most stimulants into a pre-workout and make it like the super duper strongest pre-workout available, the one that's going to get you wired and buzzed and your eyes popping out of your head and you're jumping up and down, blah, 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 blah. Like that's the way it is for most pre-workouts. It's like overkill. And quite honestly, I can't handle a full serving of most pre-workouts that are on the market these days. Like there's one that I was using and the serving size had 300 milligrams of caffeine. And that's not even extreme for some of them. I've seen some that's like 500 milligrams of caffeine, which is like totally bonkers. Like that's off the scale and insane, the amount of caffeine. But like I can't handle that much. So I will use like maybe a third or a half a scoop, you know, like a third or a half a serving of a pre-workout. And like that's more than enough. Personally, I kind of like save the pre-workout for when I need, you know, an extra boost, if you will. But for my general day-to-day workouts, just a cup of coffee is fine. And I mean, one, I enjoy coffee. I like the taste of the bean, right? I'm a coffee drinker and I enjoy it. So I try to time my coffee when it's going to have the best benefit. So like, I work out, hey, and I want to enjoy a cup of coffee. Well, I'm going to enjoy a cup of coffee before my workout. And that gives me a little bit of a caffeine kick, a little mental pick-me-up. And I find like that's more than enough to help me get through the workout with a little bit of oomph. And I mean, you don't need anything. Like you can still work out without any caffeine or buzz or anything like that. It's totally cool. But I find that it just helps me to be more focused when I have a little bit of caffeine before I exercise. Especially if it's a high intensity exercise. If it's something low intensity, like, you know, take the dog for a walk or something like that, or, you know, or something simple, or do like a follow along yoga workout or some more gentle exercise, I don't take any coffee pre-workout or anything. But if I'm going to do something where I'm going to exert myself, you know, push it, whether it's weight training or maybe go for a hard bike ride or something like that, then I find a little bit of caffeine just helps give me that little bit of oomph. And more often than not, it's just a cup of coffee. That's more than enough, because the caffeine is like a double-edged sword, right? If you take too much of it, you get to the point where your body becomes adapted to it, and then you need to take more and more in order to get the response. And you can easily like overdo it to the point where now you just need caffeine as your new maintenance. And that's one of the problems with these pre-workouts. Like people take them initially, and for the first month, they feel amazing. They're bouncing off the walls with energy. And then after a while, it's like, I don't feel the same energy anymore. And then they up the dose, right? Up the dose. And the next thing you know, you're burning out your adrenal glands because you're slamming back so much caffeine. And I've seen guys like abuse caffeine to the extreme. Like I remember a friend of mine, he was consuming upwards of 2,000 milligrams of caffeine per day just to get through his day. Like, that wasn't even providing energy anymore. That was just like his maintenance dose, if you will. 2,000 milligrams, which is like 20 cups of coffee, right? To put things in perspective, right? Like, that's insane. You know, and there's people out there who are at that level. Like, they need those extreme amounts of caffeine. I like to use it in moderation. So for me, 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day is max. Three is a lot, right? But I usually have 2. That's usually my limit. Two like, well, mugs of coffee. Like, so that would 2 of these, right? This one's actually tea. It's not coffee. But that's my max for the day, was 2. And on a extra busy day or something like that, I might have 3. So I try to keep it to a minimum so that I don't become I don't burn myself out on it, because I find if you consume too much, it's like a double-edged sword in that sense. When will I use a pre-workout? On the days where I feel I really need that extra boost. And I'll give you an example. If I'm going to test my limits and I really want to push myself, like, for example, if I'm going to do a bike race, whether it's a Zwift bike race or a road race or some big ride or something like that, then I might have the pre-workout as a little extra oomph, because I find that the pre-workout gives me a little bit extra, but I want to save it for when I need it. Or if I'm going to go in the gym and I'm really going to do a hard workout and try and test my limits and set some personal bests, then I might take the pre-workout then. But just for the day-to-day stuff, I try to keep it to a minimum and not overdo it. So, right, when you got to pull out the big guns, that's when I break out the pre-workout. All right, I know that was a long-winded question, but hopefully it was helpful. And just joining in. I used to be 12 stone, eating over 3,000 calories a day. Ever since I dropped to around 10 stone, 12 due to cutting calories to 1,900. I have insomnia and wake up frequently needing to urinate. All right. I keep getting mixed up on the stone conversion. Like, here in North America, we don't weigh things in stones. Is it 14 pounds in a stone? I got to do a Google search for this. How many pounds in a stone? 14 pounds. I was right. Wow. See, I'm not as stunned as I thought. All right. I got a lot of coaching students that I've worked with over in the UK, and a lot of them use stones as their weight conversion. And I was like, I'm however many stones. I'm 12 stones. I'm this many stones. I'm like, how heavy is a freaking stone? I don't know. Depends on how big the stone is, I guess. Right? I got a lot of stones out in my backyard. There's tons of stones. I don't know how heavy they are. They're all varied. Some are big, some are small, some are light, some are heavy. But anyway, 12 stones. So 12 stones times 14 means you are, or you were, 168. So you're 168 pounds. And you drop down to 10 stones, which is 140 pounds. Okay, so that's solid progress. Good stuff. Yeah, congrats on that. That's definitely much respect. So now you feel that you have insomnia and you wake up frequently, needing to urinate. That's not uncommon. And what's happening there is a lot of times, especially if you're cutting back on carbohydrates and maybe you're drinking more water as well. Like, a lot of times when you improve your eating habits and you're drinking more water and you're exercising and doing all this stuff, you retain less water. And with carbohydrates, especially if you're eating fewer carbohydrates, which you are by default, even if you're not on a low carb diet, just the fact that you've cut down the portions and the volume of your food from 3,000 to 1,900, there's less carbohydrates. And with less carbohydrates, you have less water retention. So now, for every gram of carbohydrate that gets stored, so stored glycogen, it retains 3 to 4 grams of water. So when you're not consuming those extra carbohydrates, you're not holding that extra water. And then if you're continuing to drink water at the same rate, or maybe even at a greater rate, it's got to go somewhere. So you'll be going to the bathroom more frequently. And that's quite common. People who start improving their eating and exercise habits and all that stuff, they tend to go to the bathroom and pee more. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I know it can be frustrating if you're waking up to pee in the nighttime. So one thing you could try doing, and this is just like a little temporary thing to see if it makes a difference, is try and taper your water intake in the evening, so that you like, don't drink a big glass of water and then go to bed. types. Try and taper your water consumption a little bit in the evening. So hopefully you'll be able to get through the night without having to wake up to go for a pee. That's one thing that you could try doing. As far as insomnia, again, carbohydrates and lower calories can cause this as well, because if you're eating less food, sometimes you don't feel as sleepy. Now, in my case, I find that when I have a bedtime snack, it helps me sleep better. I find it very difficult to sleep on an empty stomach. So if you're trying to go to bed on an empty stomach, that could be part of the reason why you're waking up and not sleeping so well. So maybe you want to try a bedtime snack. And to put your mind at ease, eating before bed is no different than eating at any other time of day. It's like these old myths that you hear people say, oh, don't eat after 6 p.m. because it'll all turn to fat. Like, your body doesn't have a clock in it where it says, okay, like if you eat at 5:59 p.m. and you finish your food at 5:59, then it's going to be all lean muscle. But if you eat at 6:01 p.m., it's all going to go to fat. No, it's over the long term, right? It's just the same as if you spend money before 6 p.m. or after 6 p.m., you still spent money. Like your bank account is going to show the same balance regardless of what time of day it is. Like if the money goes out, the money goes out. If the money comes in, the money comes in. Like it doesn't matter. Same thing like filling up your car. Whether you fill up your car in the morning or fill it up right before bed, you still fill up your car with gas. Like it doesn't matter. And the same thing when it comes to filling up your belly. Like it's calories in, calories out over the long term. So don't worry about, oh, I didn't think you were allowed to eat before bed because that'll turn to fat. No, it's calories in, calories out over the long term. It's not when you eat, it's what you eat and how much you eat. So if you're not having a bedtime snack, then that's something that might help you to sleep better. Now, this is a double-edged sword as well, because I know some people, they can't sleep if they have food in their stomach. Like some people sleep better on an empty stomach. I don't know how, but because I'm not one of them. But I've talked to people who say they got to make sure that dinner is so many hours before bed because they can't sleep if they got food in their belly. I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me because I'm the complete opposite. I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night with my belly rumbling. So I always have a bedtime snack, and I find that helps me to sleep through the night. Other things that you can do as well, like there's other things, lifestyle habits. Like, are you watching TV, or are you on your computer, or are you on your phone, or doing anything like that could be stimulating your brain later in the evening? If so, then maybe you want to try and taper that stuff off earlier and give your body time to rest. And a good strategy that a coach of mine recommended is to set a reverse alarm. Like we set an alarm to wake up in the morning. How about we set an alarm to go to bed at night? And the way the reverse alarm works is you would set it for like an hour before you want to go to bed. So let's just throw out some numbers. Let's say you want to go to bed by 10 p.m. You would set an alarm on your phone for 9 p.m. So when the 9 p.m. alarm goes off, you'd start your bedtime routine. So shut off all your electronic devices, dim the lights, start going through whatever you got to do to get ready for bed and go through that ritual. Well, whatever it is that you do, whether you get a bath, get a shower, brush your teeth, blah, 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 whatever you got to do, start going through your bedtime ritual. And the big one, of course, is shut down all the electronic devices. Turn off the telly, turn off your computer, turn off your phone and all that stuff so that you're not getting that blue light stimulation. And this is a great strategy to help set things in motion is the reverse alarm. Because what a lot of people do is they're watching TV, they're on their phone, they're on their computer, and they're stimulating themselves. And then they try and just go from totally stimulated to, all right, go in the bedroom and shut everything off. And it doesn't work that way. Usually you need to have some downtime where you let your body unwind from all that stuff. And the purpose of the reverse alarm is to keep you on schedule for that so that you're not up all hours of the night. And I find it works well for me, right? I've used that strategy and it does work. So that's something you can look into as well. But just to let you know, like what you're going through there, that's pretty common. And, I've gone through it myself, especially when I go to the extremes with fat loss. Like moderate amounts of fat loss, I find actually helps sleep quality and I get a better night's sleep. But when I go to the extremes, like I start getting to the point where I'm feeling hungry and I'm in a super low calorie state, like if I was getting ready for a bodybuilding competition and I was pushing the limits of fat loss, that's when, sleep struggles pop in. But when I'm just going from, fat to lean, and I'm in the lean healthy range, like body fat, between 10 to 15% body fat for men, that to me is like a nice healthy range. And it's not the extreme where I feel depleted and deprived. Once I start getting into the single digits, like for like contest cutting or something like that, that's when I have trouble sleeping. And a lot of bodybuilders and athletes go through the same thing when they get super lean. So something you might want to look into, like there's just these strategies that I shared with you here. I mean, like look into some of those. The bedtime snack, that could certainly help tapering off the water consumption a little bit in the evening so that you're not going to the blue right in the middle of the night. And then, of course, that reverse alarm might help as well. All right, what else we got there? Moving on. Neil is joining us. Welcome, Neil. He says, people have different beliefs about eating more than 3 eggs a day. They claimed it caused high cholesterol. Others say it's good cholesterol and so on. What are your thoughts? Moderation. I'm the moderation. I've got mixed reviews on this because in the past I have went through phases of eating a lot of eggs, and I'm just going to throw it out there right off the bat. Dietary cholesterol does not always correlate to high cholesterol in the arteries. And in fact, if you don't eat enough dietary cholesterol, your body will produce cholesterol on its own. Like cholesterol is needed. Your body needs cholesterol. I know it's kind of shunned on as the bad guy in general health and fitness circles, and the mainstream media is talking bad cholesterol, keep your cholesterol low cholesterol, this and that. And you got to look at the difference. Like dietary cholesterol doesn't always equal cholesterol buildup in the arteries. So if you don't eat enough from your food, your body will literally make its own, right? It's that critical. It's critical for hormone production, for cell integrity. Like there's so many things cholesterol is used for in the body. But I've literally, just to kind of address your egg question here, I've gone through phases where I was eating 4 eggs a day. I remember that was part of my meal plan that I had. It was 4 whole eggs a day. And I was doing that for months on end, if not for a year or more straight. And I had to, this was back when I was younger, actually. And back when I was younger, in my late teens, early 20s, I had really bad acne. And I was visiting a dermatologist to look into getting medication for acne. Side note, the medication didn't work. I actually just grew out of acne. As I got into my mid-20s and beyond, the acne cleared up on its own, right? It's kind of weird. But anyway, we were going through all kinds of looking through different routes for medication. And back then it was like Accutane and all kinds of different things. And I had to get blood work done, right? To see if because Accutane is really hard on your liver and stuff like that. And they wanted to get blood work done to make sure that I was in good health. And part of the blood work was testing my cholesterol. And I went through a phase where I was, back in my, bodybuilding days, right? When I was training hard and lifting heavy and all that. And I was eating 4 eggs a day. It was part of my meal plan. And I have been doing that consistently for months and months and months, 4 eggs a day. And when I got my cholesterol back, the numbers were actually in the low normal range. So 4 eggs a day did not put me into the high cholesterol range. Now, I was active, I was young and everything else. I mean, I had a lot of positive things going for me. Whereas someone who maybe is older, more sedentary and everything else, maybe that would put them into the high cholesterol range. There's a lot of variables that come into play. So you can't always just look at, blame the eggs, right? You got to look at the bigger picture, right? Like someone who's more active and, is exercising on a regular basis and they have higher blood flow and stuff like that, they're not going to have the same cholesterol buildup as someone who's sedentary. Someone who's burning off the calories, has a higher metabolism. They're going to metabolize through it a lot faster than someone who has a slower metabolism. So it's not a one size fits all cookie cutter, black or white answer. Like, some people say, oh, you can't have more than this or you can't have more than that. Like, it depends. It depends. Like, who are we talking about, right? Are we talking about a 75-year-old grandmother whose exercise routine is sitting on the rocking chair and knitting? Or are you talking about a 25-year-old athlete who's in the gym, 10 hours a week, right? Like, and plus they're on the field and practice and everything else, another 10 hours a week. Like, who are you talking to, right? Like, it depends. So I don't like to give these blanket statements, but I've went through phases where I've eaten whole eggs on a regular basis and never had any issue. I know a lot of people have done the same. But if it's something you're concerned with, what I recommend is get regular checkups. Like, get your blood work and stuff at least once a year. Like, you go to your doctor, get a regular checkup and see. And as long as your cholesterol is in like the normal range and everything's fine, then keep doing what you're doing, right? But if it starts to creep up into the high range, then maybe you want to look into, your options. I mean, maybe that would be cutting back on the foods or other things, because there's other ways to increase your cholesterol besides just high cholesterol foods, right? Because even just a lot of processed foods in general, being overweight, all these things can have an impact on your cholesterol levels as well. But alcohol consumption, is another one that can have an impact. But again, it's more than just dietary cholesterol, right? That's one element, but it's a much bigger puzzle. The more, it's like once you start going down the rabbit hole, then there's more in the rabbit hole, right? But when you're just scratching the surface, you don't see all the different layers that goes into it. But again, if you're concerned about it, get your blood work done. Go to your doctor, request a checkup, get your blood work, and see where your cholesterol's to, right? And then you can, use that. So you're actually making decisions off some real solid numbers in your own personal situation, and not just, Google searches and YouTube videos. Nothing wrong with Google searches and YouTube videos, mind you, because we wouldn't be talking if it wasn't for Google searches and YouTube videos. But it's nice to have some specific numbers and actually get the blood work done as well to back it up. And I've always eaten whole eggs. Now, I don't eat as many whole eggs now as I used to. Part of the reason is because I'm just trying to keep my calories in check. It's more the overall volume and fat intake. I'll still have whole eggs, but it's not like a daily thing for me. I mean, I'll probably average half a dozen whole eggs a week now at this stage of the game. But whenever I get my blood work done, my cholesterol is always in the low normal range. I've never had issues with cholesterol in my entire life. Okay, moving on. We have Hybrid joining in. What's a good calorific meal for breakfast a couple hours before strength workout? I think you must mean a good caloric meal. But he's got like calorific. Anyway, what's a good meal before breakfast or for breakfast a couple hours before a strength training workout that's easy on the stomach and wouldn't make me burp during the warm-up? If you're looking for something to eat before you work out, keep it simple and don't have anything that's high in fat. Don't have anything that's high in fiber. Don't have anything that's going to be sitting in your gut for any length of time. So my simple go-to meal for like a pre-workout snack, if you will, a protein shake and a piece of fruit. That's usually what I go for. Like literally a scoop of protein powder mixed up in water and a banana or something like that. Just something really simple. That's because it's easy to digest. It's going to take the edge off your hunger. It's going to give you a little bit of energy. It's something to run on, but it's not going to really bog you down or make you feel heavy and sluggish. Now, there's other things you could have. You could have a protein shake and maybe a couple rice cakes. That's really easy to digest. There's other types of easy digesting cereal or something like that you could have as well. Like maybe, a protein shake and some cream of wheat or something along those lines. But try not to have anything that's high in fat or excessive amounts of fiber or anything that's fatty or gassy or something like that. That's going to take a long time to digest. Something that's very simple, very easy to digest, and that can be utilized by the body without making you feel heavy and sluggish. That's what you want. Like save the heavier, higher dense foods for after the workout, right? When you're in the rest and recovery phase, the rest and digest phase. But pre-workout, that's when you want to keep it very light, something that you can consume that's not going to bog you down and make you feel heavy and sluggish. And of course, something that's not going to cause you to get gassy. But that's my default right there. If I want a quick little pre-workout meal, it's a protein shake and a piece of fruit. That's usually my go-to. All right. Really appreciate you for answering my questions. I'll check out your website. Good stuff. And if you do have any questions or need any help besides this, feel free to reach out to me. I've got my contact information down in the description of this below, whether you want to email me or friend me up over on Facebook, and we can chat through there as well. All right. What else we got? JE is joining in. How many sets do you do for a muscle group on your full body workouts? I usually prioritize one main exercise per muscle group, and I will probably do 3 to 4 working sets per that exercise. The way I always do my sets these days is I start off light and I just increase the weight with each set, and I usually work up to a top heavy set, and then maybe I'll do a back off set afterwards. So there's three sets are effort sets, if you will. So, you can still count the warm-ups, but I'll probably do a total of 5 sets per exercise. But the first couple are kind of like just progressively heavier warm-ups. 3 of them are actually, exerting some effort. And probably one of those sets will be a higher intensity effort, right? Because again, I usually like pyramid up, and then sometimes I'll do a back off set at the end where I'll just lighten up the weight and then really pump out high reps at the end. But that's generally how many I'll do. 5 sets, right? Will be an average for me. Of course, it may vary. Sometimes I'll do less than that, but that's kind of like a ballpark guesstimate for you. Medi's saying thanks for the answer. You're welcome. Hopefully it was helpful. We have Steve's joining in. Hey, Steve. We have Vince joining in. And Vince has a question. Says, chest, tricep, back, bicep, shoulder, leg. Have you tried this split, and what is the actual name of it? Push-pull legs, I guess. Well, technically it's not a perfect push-pull legs, because if it was a true push-pull legs, you'd have chest, shoulders, and triceps, all the pushing muscles together. The back and the biceps are the pulling muscles, and then legs will be done on their own workout. But it's basically a variation of a push-pull leg split. And yes, I've done push-pull legs before. I would say over the last 30 plus years that I've been working out, I've tried pretty much every bodybuilding split. I mean, I'm not going to claim that I've tried it all, but I've tried a lot, right? I've done body part splits. I've done push-pull legs. I've done opposing muscle groups, agonist and antagonist. I've done various powerlifting splits back when I was competing in powerlifting. I mean, I've tried a lot of shit. I've done a lot of shit. And you know what? I keep coming back to the basics. The basics of just a simple total body workout 3 times a week. Because it's so simple, but it works. And if it works, why make it complicated? Like, why overcomplicate something for the sake of overcomplicating it? This is something I always get a kick out of. Like, people like to make things harder than it has to be. Like, if you can get results with simple, why not get results with simple? Why do you always have to start meddling it and adding and complex? Like too many cooks in the kitchen, ruins the meal, right? Like, same idea here. Like, sometimes when you overcomplicate things, you actually ruin it. So I like just keep it simple. If it works and you enjoy it and it's something you can do and sustain, then by gosh, do it. Right? We don't need to overcomplicate things. Right? The older I get, the more simplified I get. All right, and that's the truth. Right? I've been through the complicated phases of trying to overthink and overanalyze and blah blah blah. And I mean, there's a time and a place for all that stuff, but more often than not, simple is best. We have Baby Boomer Fitness joining in. Hello, Baby Boomer Fitness. We have Steve's got a question saying, so true, only feels 2 minutes ago I was 20 and now I'm 42. Talking about how fast time flies. I hear you, my friend. We've got Juan joining in. Can I metabolize more than 50 grams of protein per meal? Yes, you can. And the way this works, like, a lot of people think, oh, you can only digest so much protein per serving and all this. It really depends on first off, your body size has a huge impact on this, but you will metabolize it. It's just going to take longer. Like, a bigger meal is going to take longer to digest than a smaller meal, right? If you have a little tiny small snack, you'll digest that pretty quick. If you have a great big Thanksgiving Day dinner, with appetizers and main course and desserts, and your gut is stuck out further than your chest, and you're bloated, and you just got to lie down after the meal because you've ate so much, it's going to take a long time for that to digest, right? So bigger meals take longer to digest than smaller meals, but they're still going to get digested. It's not like the food magically evaporates and disappears and doesn't count, right? Like, you can't just eat, again, like go to an all-you-can-eat buffet and stuff yourself and say, well, my body's only going to metabolize so much of it. The rest of it's just going to magically evaporate into thin air. I'm just going to burp and fart and it's gone, right? And then we'll pretend those calories didn't exist because it was over the limit, right? They're going to disappear because it's too much. No, it's all going to get metabolized. Your body's going to use it all, right? But it's just going to take a lot longer to digest. That's it. So same thing with protein. Like, if you eat 5 grams of protein, that's going to digest pretty quickly. If you eat 50 grams of protein, it's going to take longer. I've heard a number. I think it's general ballpark is somewhere around, and I'm not even going to say it because I'm sure I'm going to butcher the numbers now, but it's just going to take longer. Like if you have 50 grams of protein, it's going to take several hours for that to digest. I'm not sure the exact rate. Like I've seen a calculation someone had, like so many grams of protein per hour is how much the body can digest. But again, that's kind of like a generalization, because someone who's bigger is going to digest at a faster rate than someone who's smaller. So I'm not even going to throw the number out there, because I'll just create more confusion than I'm offering help. But simple answer, yes, you will digest it. If you ate 50 grams of protein, your body will digest it. It'll just take longer versus if you ate less. And if you ate more, it'll take longer again. Coffee or tea? It depends. Coffee in the AM, tea in the PM. That's Daniel's question. Right now it's the PM and I'm drinking tea. What are the most useful supplements for everyday usage, and what do you take? And that was from Raph. I'm a big fan of supplements for overall health. I'm not a big fan of muscle builders and fat burners and test boosters and anything that you would see associated with bodybuilding. It's like, the old school bodybuilding magazines, and you see, Joe Blow pro bodybuilder saying, hey, I gained 50 pounds in the last 3 weeks because I took XYZ super duper muscle dust mega builder. Bullshit. Right? Anything along those lines, I'm not a big fan of, because a lot of it is they're selling a ton of sizzle for every ounce of steak. A lot of it's overkill and blah. It's just bullshit. I'm more into health and supplements that are going to aid with your overall health and wellness. And the thing I look at when I'm looking at supplements, what are some common deficiencies that people have? Like, what are the things that we need the most of? And obviously, you can go get blood work done to actually analyze your own individual situation. But here are some general guidelines that will apply for most people. The B vitamins, like all the different B vitamins, a lot of people are deficient and not getting enough of those. So I personally take a B complex with all the different B vitamins. Zinc and magnesium. A lot of people are deficient in those, zinc and magnesium. So I personally take those. Like I actually take a ZMA supplement in the evening to get sure that the zinc and the magnesium, and also that has some extra vitamin B6, but I also take some extra magnesium in the morning. Vitamin D3. That's another one. A lot of people are deficient in D3. Unless you're fortunate enough to live in a hot, warm, sunny climate and you have hours a day to spend outside in the natural sunlight to get that natural vitamin D, most people are deficient in it. Like, even if you live in Florida or California or in the tropics, if you're spending most of your day sitting in an office and you're not outside, and when you do get outside, you're all covered up, you're still not getting a lot of vitamin D, right? Like, so unless you're spending a lot of time out in the natural sunlight and your body's exposed to it, where you're like at the beach swimming and surfing and living it up, like, you need to supplement vitamin D for the most part, especially people who, like myself, who live in the northern climates and you go through months of the year where the days are short and all that. You definitely need vitamin D. So vitamin D3 is another must-have that I have on a regular basis. What else? So the B vitamins, the zinc, the magnesium, the D3. I also supplement with omega-3 fatty acids, and my personal favorite is high-potency fish oil to get the high-quality omega-3s, because most people are not getting enough omega-3s in their diet these days. Again, unless you're slamming back tons of wild-caught fatty fish and you're eating that on a regular basis, you probably need to supplement with omega-3. So that's another good one. Coenzyme Q10, another one that I like to have. Greens powder, another one that I like to have as well to help supplement greens, because how many people do you know who are regularly consuming 10 servings of vegetables a day? Probably not that many. So if I can't get enough solid food vegetables, then I will supplement with greens powder. Just the same as I supplement with protein powder when I don't get enough protein. So, I mean, like, my default is every single meal I want to have protein and vegetables. If I can't have protein and vegetables in the form of solid food, then I'm going to have supplemental protein in the form of protein powder and supplemental veggies in the form of greens powder. So protein powder and greens powder help supplement the diet that way. I also use creatine on a regular basis as well. Creatine has not only is it good for muscle building, but it's numerous health benefits to it as well, like even mental and cognitive function. There's a lot of research gone into creatine. It's one of the most researched supplements that's out there, and it's backed by years of real world results. But I use 5 grams of creatine per day as just like a general health supplement. Like, just the same as I take my vitamins each day, I take my creatine each day. But those are the key ones right there that I use on a regular basis. And that's what I would recommend. Like most of my coaching students and stuff like that, I recommend the same ones. Other things that you can look into as well that could certainly be helpful, like if you have any gut health or digestive issues, probiotics and digestive enzymes can certainly be other ones to look into. They can certainly help. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head some other ones. That would be the main ones. All right, let's move on. I don't want to waste up too much time because we've already been going for over an hour. Once I, like I told you at the start, once I get rambling on, I go for a while. Daniel says, I heard beta alanine works better after it's built up in your system for a couple of weeks. Probably it does. I would assume most supplements are like that. You know, it usually takes a while for it to build up into your system. I haven't researched it or tested it myself to know for sure, but it certainly makes sense. That would probably be the case. Edgar, just a second. Edgar is saying, are natural and artificial flavors bad for gains? Because I enjoy this Greek non-fat yogurt with no sugar, but it has natural flavors. I wouldn't be too concerned with it. I mean, I don't go overboard with it, but I will have like foods with artificial flavors. Like, for example, protein powder. If you get a vanilla protein powder or chocolate protein powder, well, that's artificial vanilla flavoring, and plus it's got some artificial sweeteners in there. Same with the chocolate, you know, it's got some artificial sweeteners in there. Like, you will get some artificial sweeteners, and I don't avoid them. I mean, I'm not paranoid, but I don't go out of my way to consume them either, right? I'm not like slamming back tons of artificial sweeteners and stuff like that. But if it's there in my food, especially like protein powders and things like that, then I will have it. So, I mean, if you're having your yogurt, look at the nutrition label. Like if it's a fat-free, sugar-free Greek yogurt, but it's got some artificial sweeteners or flavors added into it, but you enjoy it, hey, it's much better to have that than it is to have the high sugar stuff. Because at least with the artificial sweeteners, you're not getting the calories. You know, and in moderation, I honestly don't think it's that big of a deal, because I've seen a lot of people get great results consuming artificial sweeteners. Now, I know it's kind of a controversial area because you'll get some people will say, oh my God, it's the worst thing in the world. It's going to cause you to die and blow up and balloon, blah, blah, blah. And then there's other people say it's safe in moderation and everything in between. I'm of the it's safe in moderation, right? But I wouldn't go to the extremes with it, because I think in extremes, the artificial sweeteners and stuff like that can cause some issues. Like, I'll give you a prime example. One of my coaching students that I was working with last year, he was basically addicted to diet soda, and that's all he drank. Like, he didn't drink water, he didn't drink coffee, he didn't drink tea, he just drank Diet Pepsi. And he drank about 6 liters of Diet Pepsi a day. That's a lot. Like those big 2-liter bottles, he would drink 3 of those a day. And he was like, is that okay? And I'm like, well, from a calories in, calories out point of view, yes, but I mean, I don't think it's healthy to drink 6 liters of diet soda a day, but he did. And he really struggled with his weight. Like, even though he was exercising regularly and doing a lot of healthy habits and stuff, this was one thing. Like, he was slamming back this. And, you know, finally, you know, because again, he was addicted to it, right? And it was something like anybody trying to cut an addiction. It's not easy to do. But over time, he gradually, you know, started swapping it out for other things and cut back on the soda consumption. And since he's done that, like, I don't think he's eliminated it, but he's drastically cut it down. And since he's cut down on the diet soda consumption, he's actually started to lose more weight. Now, it's not necessarily a calories in, calories out thing. I mean, there could be other variables in play, but I'm just of that, you know, common sense mindset that anything in excess can't be good. So, you know, moderation, like, hey, you like to have a little bit of Greek yogurt with some artificial sweetener in it. Okay, big deal. I'm assuming you're not drinking or slamming back gallons of Greek yogurt a day. You know, you're probably just having it in moderation. I wouldn't think that's a big deal. But if you're consuming excessive amounts of artificial sweeteners and stuff, like 6 liters of diet pop day after day after day, week after week after week, month after month, year after year, that's excessive, right? So I wouldn't recommend that. But hey, if you like to have a diet pop, you know, once in a while, or big deal. I don't think that's a big, like, I have a diet pop once in a while. I mean, I don't stress over it or anything like that, but it's certainly not you know, in excess. So That's my 2 cents worth. I mean, again, take it for what it's worth. You asked my opinion on it, and I'm sharing my opinion on it. Do you stretch after every workout? I certainly try to. I got to be honest. Sometimes I'm guilty if I'm pressed for time. I don't do it after every single workout, but I do it after most workouts. What I like to do is I will stretch the muscles that I trained. And in my case, where I kind of do a total body workout, I generally do some total body stretching. So hanging from the pull-up bar, I like to do some back stretches, like bend over, touch the toes. I do some chest stretches and things like that, and also do some mobility work afterwards. Do some stretching for the core. But yeah, I run through like a little stretching routine. Takes me at most like 5 minutes max at the end of a workout, but I feel really good afterwards. Just to stretch out all the major muscle groups, and that's something that I do fairly consistently, after each session. Now, unless I'm pressed for time and for some reason, I'm watching the clock and I got to get out of the gym, get in, get out. But I try to do it after every workout. Is it really bad not to stretch after a hard workout? I mean, it's not going to make or break your progress whether you stretch or not. Like I say, I sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But it's one of those things. I think it has more benefits if you do it on a regular basis. And when it comes to stretching, I should mention this: stretch after a workout, not before. Like, you want to stretch a warm muscle. So after the workout, when your muscles are warmed up and you're pumped and everything else, that's when the muscles are at their warmest after a workout. That's the ideal time to stretch, because there's a couple reasons for this. One, you don't want to stretch a cold muscle. Think of your muscles like rubber bands. And if you take a rubber band and it's cold, like, I don't know, I put a rubber band and I put it up in the freezer and I leave it there for a while so it gets really cold and stiff. And then I take it out of the freezer and I try and stretch it right away. Well, it's more likely to actually snap because cold condenses it, right? It makes it inflexible, cold does. But when it's warmed up, it's more flexible, it's more pliable. Your muscles are the same way. So you want to warm your muscles up before you stretch them. So that's why it's always good to go through some gentle exercises, like some low intensity cardio and stuff like that, to just get your heart rate elevated, warm up the muscles, and then do progressively heavier warm up sets and warm up the body, warm up your core temperature, warm up the muscles themselves, increase the blood flow and the circulation. And then after the workout, do the actual stretching, the static stretching when the muscles are warm and pliable, because it's less risk of injury when you stretch after a workout. Not only that, stretching before a workout can decrease muscle tension. And you want muscle tension to, especially when you're doing weight training and resistance training, because that tension helps you to lift heavier weight. So if you stretch out the tension, you don't have as much oomph when it comes to lifting. And it's not going to make or break. Like, I mean, you can still lift if you've stretched before. I mean, it's not going to mean that you're totally on empty. But studies have actually shown, like, people who stretch before versus stretch after, you will actually have slightly higher strength output during your training session if you save the stretching for after versus if you stretch a muscle before, right? Because when you stretch it out beforehand, you actually take out some of that tension, and that tension can actually be used to generate more force when it comes to lifting weights. So you're better off to do your stretching after your workouts versus before, from a performance as well as an injury prevention point of view. All right, let's see what else we got. I'm getting ready to clue this up because I've been rambling on here now for an hour and 13 minutes. All right, so who else we got? Noah's joining in. Mindy's joining in. Paul's joining in. Hey, Paul, glad to see you. What's the best kind of stretching before you work out? Ironic, Paul, I just talked about that. You don't stretch before you work out. You stretch after. Jacqueline's joining in. Space Battleship Alex is joining us. How's it going? Saddam is joining in, and we have JKS. Greetings from the North Shore of NB. New Brunswick, maybe? I'm not sure. Could you provide a summary of the advantages and benefits of supersets as opposed to doing 3 to 4 sets of each exercise before moving on to the next one? Both work. Like, all right, this is a good question. I'll do this one and clue up the video chat then. Like, anything is better than nothing. So, I mean, you can make progress with supersets. You can make progress with straight sets and whatever. The advantage of a superset or an alternate set, like, technically a superset is 2 exercises back to back with no rest. I mean, you can do that, but what most people do and what I do, and we say it's a superset, but technically it's an alternate set, is alternating one exercise, take a rest, then do another exercise, take a rest, and then go back and just alternate them back and forth. I like to do that for opposing muscle groups. So for example, if I'm training biceps and triceps, I might do a bicep exercise, like one set of biceps, rest, do one set of triceps, rest, one set of biceps, rest, one set of triceps, and I'll work them back to back in an alternate fashion like that. And I like that because, one, it gives you a really cool pump in the biceps and triceps. I mean, who doesn't love having biceps and triceps pumped? But it also helps to extend your strength and balance things out. Because if you did all your sets of biceps first and then did all your sets of triceps after, well, like you're exhausting one muscle entirely before you move on to the next muscle. Whereas if you alternate them set for set in an opposing fashion like that, you kind of balance out the fatigue. So you're still hitting both biceps and triceps equally when you're in that fresh state. You know, so like as your general energy fatigues, you're still hitting the muscles in balance as you're going through your workouts, versus if you hit all like one of exercise and then all of the next exercise and all the next, by the time you're getting to the later exercises, like you're running on empty. You don't have much left in the tank by the time you get to those other movements. So the quality and the strength you're able to exert at that stage is probably going to be much lower. Whereas if you were doing alternate sets, you could maintain a higher level of strength across more muscle groups. So that's a nice little plus to it. But again, you can make it work with both. Like this is something that's like, you know, how long is a piece of string, right? You know, like apples and oranges. It's like we can argue both ways, right? Like it's not that one is right, wrong, good, or bad. It's just like you can use it in different situations. I like doing agonist and antagonist muscle groups with supersets. So like leg extensions and leg curls, bicep curls and tricep extensions. You know, I'll do that back to back like that. But if I'm doing a big exercise like squats or deadlifts or something like that, then I'll usually just do straight sets because I don't want to be bouncing back and forth between other exercises. I want to save all my energy for that one big exercise, you know, because it takes a lot of energy and I need the rest and recovery in between those sets. So for bigger, heavier moves, I usually just do straight sets. For smaller isolation stuff, I very often do supersets or alternate sets. But bottom line, as long as you're working out and you're training consistently and you're doing so in a progressive overload fashion, you can still make it work. And if you're in a really busy gym and you can't tie up multiple pieces of equipment at one time, then maybe straight sets are the answer for you, right? If you can only use one piece of equipment at a time, then straight sets would be ideal. But if you have the luxury of training in a not so busy gym and you can hog a couple pieces of equipment at a time, then you might be able to take advantage of the alternate sets or the supersets. But bottom line, both work, right? It's not a one size fits all answer. It just depends on the situation, what it is you're trying to train for. What else we got there? We have the Fine Lass. I think that's how I'm pronouncing the name. It says, "Hi Lee, thanks for what you do. I credit a lot of my early results to some of your information in your videos. I appreciate it, and you've helped me a lot." Well, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Always nice to hear when people are getting positive results from it. Makes it worthwhile. Fithai says, "Can you speak Arabic?" Nope, I'm an Englishman. I speak English. That's my only language. Alex is saying, "I've been trying to program dips into my program, but not able to get more than 3 to 4 per set. Would it be better to get a stronger bench and better to do push-ups instead of dips?" If you're struggling with the dips, then yeah, do push-ups. It's still going to work the same muscles, but you should be able to get more push-ups than you will dips. Dips are, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with dips because they are a great exercise, but it's also a high risk of injury because there's a tendency with dips to overstretch in the bottom and place a lot of stress on that shoulder rotation, because as you're going down, you can really overstretch the shoulders and the chest. So a lot of people have some shoulder issues when they do dips, especially if they do them too deep. So you can do them in a shorter range of motion, or you can just focus on like doing push-ups instead. Push-ups are still going to work the same major muscle groups, but the cool thing about push-ups is, one, you're not going to overstretch yourself because, you know, you can only go down so far before your chest hits the floor, and that's it. So it's it's kind of got that safety feature built in. And of course, if you rep out to push-ups, the worst thing's going to happen is you're lying face on the floor. You know, you're not going to be stuck in the bottom or overstretch yourself, right? So I mean, that I like push-ups for that reason. And if you're going to rep out to failure, then push-ups are a great exercise to do so. So in your situation, if you're struggling with the dips, I would recommend doing the push-ups instead. And then maybe later on, you can go back to trying the dips. Another variation you can do as well is if you have those assisted dip machines, the ones that take some of the resistance away. If you have access to that at your local gym, then you can utilize that. That may help you to get higher repetitions. But in the meantime, I just do the push-ups. That's a simple answer. Steve is asking, is green tea good for weight loss? It can help, but it's not a magic formula. I mean, like there are metabolic and health benefits to green tea, but like you can't, you know, eat like shit and drink green tea and think it's going to cancel it out. Like, no, it ain't going to work that way. But can it help in combination with diet and exercise and everything else? Yes, it can help the process along, but it's not going to do it for you. Like a lot of the so-called fat burners and stuff like that very often have green tea extract as one of the ingredients because it does help, but it's not, again, it's not a miracle. How many minutes of training for UFC and parkour? I have no idea because I've never done the UFC and I've never done parkour. So we're at the wrong channel. This is health and fitness and bodybuilding, not UFC and parkour. All right, but I will give you the simple answer. A lot, right? You see any of the UFC fighters? How many minutes do they train? They train a lot. Like they just there's a frick of a lot of work. Anybody who's at the elite level, you know, competing at high level sports and athletics, like they basically dedicate their life to it, right? Especially when they're getting ready for a fight, like a UFC fighter is getting ready for a match. You can rest assured in the weeks and months leading up to that fight, he's dedicated his freaking life to that, right? So how much time did he put in? A lot. That's the simple answer right there. What else we got? Lee Broker saying, hey, Lee, 48 years old, a regular gym goer. I need to get back in. Been 3 months. Last time seemed harder to gain. Should I reevaluate my routine? So you're a regular gym goer, but you need to get back in. You've been 3 months. So you're an on and off gym goer by the sound of it. If you were a regular gym goer, you wouldn't need to get back in because you'd already be in. If you're on and off with your workouts and it's been months since you've been in the gym, the simple answer is every time you start back again, you got to start just like a beginner all over again. Now, the good news is you're going to be able to progress beyond the beginner phase a lot faster the second time around than the initial time. But you always have to start back at the basics. You have to start back and treat your body just like a beginner, because if you haven't been working out for 3 months, you are deconditioned. You've lost your fitness. But there's muscle memory, which is a nice thing. And it's much quicker to regain lost muscle and lost strength and fitness than it is to gain it initially. So like if like, for example, like let's just say you've been working out for 10 years to get up to a certain level of fitness, and then you took a few months off. Well, it ain't going to take you another 10 years to get back to your level of fitness again. But it will take you, you know, a couple months or more of regular workouts to get back to close to where you were before. So you can always regain it a lot quicker the second time around, but you have to start back like a beginner again. You don't expect to go back into the gym after a 3-month layoff and just pick up where you left off. It ain't going to happen, right? Your strength, your stamina, your work capacity, everything is down. And if you try to pick up where you left off, you're going to hurt yourself, right? You're going to pull, strain, snap something up. Like you are going to get hurt because your body is deconditioned and it just can't handle that. So you got to start off like a beginner again, and then give yourself permission to go through the motions, right? For the first month, like just show up to the gym on a regular basis. That's the goal. Like who cares what you do when you get there? Just show up, go through the motions, and then just better what you did. Each week you go in there, just try and do a little bit better than you did the week before. Like get an extra rep, an extra 5 pounds, just build it up slowly and gradually. And then rest assured, as long as you're consistent, it will start to compound and you'll get back to where you were before. But it's not going to be some overnight thing, right? You just can't snap your fingers and say, hey, I'm back in shape again, right? After a 3-month layoff, right? It's probably going to take you, honestly, if you took 3 months off, it's probably going to take you a good first month, you're going through the motions. After the second month and you're getting into the third month, you should pretty much be back to where you were before. Assuming everything goes well and there's no injuries or any setbacks along the way. But it's going to take time. It's going to take you at least a couple months of consistent training to get reasonably close to where you were before. All right, guys, I'm going to clue it up because, Jesus, I've been gone for an hour and 24 minutes. So I try to clue this up at an hour, but I keep talking. And the questions keep coming in. So if I didn't get to your question, or if you have any other things that you would like to discuss, feel free to reach out to me, right? You can send me an email. I've got my email address posted down in the description of this video, or you can friend me up over on Facebook, follow me over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook page, and you can interact with me and chat with me through there, or post questions and comments to our Facebook. You can also join. We have a private Facebook group, right? Just do a search for Lee Hayward when you're over on Facebook, and you'll be able to find it. So there's Total Fitness Bodybuilding page, there's a Total Fitness Bodybuilding group, or you can friend request me, my personal profile as well, and send me a message to either of those. And I will chat with you there. In the meantime, have yourself a fantastic weekend, and I'll be back again here next week, same time, same place. Over and out. Cha-ching.